We have 3 emergency exit locations. 1, 2, 3. If we need to evacuate the building, we will exit the nearest door and proceed to the stairwell to the left or the right of the commission room at the end of the hall. Our meeting place will be on the surface parking lot under the 408. AEDs and first aid kits are in the sound closet. Excuse me. Vince Preston will retrieve the AED and the first aid kit. Fire extinguishers are outside the front vestibule doorways, and Brad Jewell will call 911 if needed. I will perform CPR. The security team will assist with directing emergency responders into the building and up to the 7th floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like Gianna Hernandez to please come up to give us a moment of reflection.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Namen Gonzalez, Commissioners, Mayor Baridar, and Clint. We're on the edge of hurricane season. Summer is already making itself known. Graduation is ushering young people into new phases of life, and tourists are beginning to flock our city. Similarly, we're experiencing moments of transformation here. President Namen Gonzalez was elected only 2 months ago. Around the same time, OUC launched Strategy 2035 across the organization to help us continue to build a sustainable and reliable future for our community. These wonderful and exciting moments have one thing in common: change. As people, we often find discomfort in change. We fear it. It requires us to admit we don't know it all. And we can associate learning with pain and embarrassment. And yet, life demands change. So how can we challenge ourselves to embrace change despite the deep survival instinct within us screaming at us to stay the same? Nature, our city, and our families show us that example every day. First, we can change slowly. Don't rush. Be countercultural and slow down. When we hit a block, reset, reflect, try again. Slowness turns failures into opportunities and makes something that can feel overwhelming seem manageable. Change intentionally. Doing something with purpose, with focused and planned precision, makes change desirable after that initial excitement and motivation melt away. And change even when you're afraid. Judgment, shame, and uncertainty will fill you with anxiety to not engage with the change. Do it anyways. Those internal alarms are just information, not promises of the future to come. This is how we change resiliently. I challenge us to apply the practice of changing resiliently beyond our work and in our daily lives as well. Build the muscles to tolerate or even thrive in change at home. Learn a new dance. Try a new cuisine. Read a book by an author that thinks differently than you. Within our constant routine, find moments to do something inconsistent. So when hard changes come, we won't be held back by fear. We'll lead others through it with tenacity, with courage. Embrace change and change resiliently. Thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely. I'd like to invite Chad Brinkman to come forward and lead the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Brinkman served in the U.S. Army for 4 years, achieving the rank of E3. Mr. Brinkman has worked at OUC for 4 years, and his current title is Technology Support Specialist 2.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Let's all place our hands over our hearts and look at the flag and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for this opportunity. You'll have a great day.
Thank you for your service, Mr. Brinkman. Okay, the time is now 2:05, and I call the May 12, 2026 Commission meeting to order. Commissioner Gross is not in attendance today, but I'd like to acknowledge we have quorum is present. We're going to begin with the consideration of the April 7 Commission meeting minutes. Our next item is on the agenda is the consideration of April 7 Commission meetings. I will entertain a motion to waive the reading of the commission meeting minutes and adopt them as published.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Mayor Dyer and a second by Commissioner Brown. Is there any discussion? There is no further discussion. We'll take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. I'd like to now call Mr. Adams to provide us with the Employee Service Awards.
Thank you. I would like to call Mr. James Applewhite to the front, please. James is accompanied by Miss Brittany Smith and his two children, Alicia and Carmela. James is celebrating 20 years of service. James started out his OUC career here at OUC as a water technician. He was then promoted to equipment operator, water coordinator, and then lead water distribution technician over a water distribution crew. However, James knew that he always had a knack for plan reviews and designs, and he wanted a new challenge and something more technical. For those reasons, when the opportunity came, James applied for an engineering associate position in the electric and water distribution engineering department and started his career as an engineering associate 8 years ago. James is currently a senior engineering associate. James is responsible for the commercial project plan review for compliance with OUC's material specifications, standards, and policies for potable water systems. James also oversees the permitting process for these projects through the regulatory agencies and ensures that the installation of water systems meet OUC specifications. James works with many large commercial customers, such as Advent Health, Orlando Health, Tavistock, and Universal Studios. James also works on flusher systems within the distribution system to ensure compliance with Florida Department of Environmental Protection. James is a true team player. He is very approachable, supportive, and is always willing to take the time to help others, even when it falls outside of his own responsibilities. James also brings great energy and positivity to the workplace environment. His team spirit, generosity, and genuine care for his coworkers makes a meaningful and lasting impact on a daily basis. James enjoys spending time with his family and friends. He loves fishing and bowling. He recently competed in a national bowling competition in Reno, Nevada. And he also enjoys cooking and is world-renowned, as I understand it, for his jerk chicken wings. I think I'll need to be the judge of that, yeah. James also wanted to say that over the past 20 years, he never imagined that he would grow both professionally and personally in the way that he has. He wants to thank his colleagues for their support, his managers for their guidance, and leadership for continuing to make OUC a great company to work for. He has seen this company evolve, and he has been proud to grow along with it. Thank you for this recognition, and he looks forward to the next chapter together. Thank you also, James, for 20 years of service.
Thank you. I'm sorry, thank you. Okay. How you doing? Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Congratulations. Thank you very much. Oh, yeah, I got you.
Next, I would like to call forward Mr. Leonel Dominguez. Mr. Dominguez is accompanied by, no wife? No wife. Okay, sorry. He is married to Miss Claudia Dominguez, and he is accompanied by Rebecca, Angelica, and is it Daniel? Daniel Gabriel is not here, right? Okay, so this is Daniel? Angelica, okay. And he also has a grandson named Jude Lester, whom he is very proud of. Leonel has been serving as a water maintenance coordinator since 2018, following his prior roles as a water meter shop technician, support specialist, water technician 1, cross-connection inspector, and certified backflow tester. In his current position, he plays a key role in coordinating multiple backflow and hydrant fire flow test programs. His responsibilities include coordinating and scheduling pre-inspections for residential installation projects related to special irrigation and alternative water source backflow installations, and coordinating both residential and commercial backflow testing in collaboration with contractors such as Aaron's and ACE. Leonel also coordinates communications with commercial customers, including mailing notifications and assisting with self-performing backflow test submissions. Additionally, he reviews and verifies contractor-submitted backflow test results, resolving discrepancies as needed, and ensures accurate reporting through CCNB to maintain compliance with state statutes. When he first started in the backflow department testing backflows, everything was manual. He remembers writing down all of the inspection data, stuffing and putting stamps on envelopes, and sending the inspection results and bills to customers for backflow inspections. Now, everything is automated through CCNB, and Leonel is extremely proud that he was part of the team that helped transition from a manual process to automation through CCNB. Leonel is recognized for his self-resilience, resourcefulness, and strong attention to detail. He consistently prioritizes accuracy and has demonstrated adaptability in implementing new processes within the cross-connection department. And he prides himself on always being on time. He's always here, always available for his team and coworkers, and no sick time, right? No sick time. He enjoys family activities, being involved in church, traveling, and watching sporting activities like football, basketball, and baseball. Leonel, thank you for your 20 years of service.
Thank you, sir.
Well, the third time's a charm. I would like to bring up Jason Drayton. Jason is accompanied by his wife, Dr. Tamara Baker Drayton, Lauren, and Joshua. Jason Drayton brings nearly 2 decades of hands-on technical expertise and safety leadership in the utility industry. Since 2006, he has built a distinguished career with the Orlando Utilities Commission, beginning as an apprentice line technician and advancing to line technician 1 before moving into safety leadership roles. Jason went on to serve as a safety coordinator and later as senior safety coordinator, where he led incident investigations, conducted field inspections, supported major training initiatives, and helped develop policies that strengthen safety performance across the organization. In 2023, he returned to the Electric Distribution Construction and Maintenance Department as a line technician 1 and now works as a lead line technician. Although no longer serving directly in a safety position, Jason continues to play a key role in helping electric construction implement, track, and monitor critical safety protocols, processes, and procedures. His career reflects a long-standing dedication to safe, efficient, high-quality electric utility work. For those who know Jason, they know that he is extremely passionate about safety and doing things the right way. He loves to teach, is a great communicator, and enjoys developing the next generation of line workers. In his spare time, Jason enjoys live streaming and live sound setup. He used to do a lot of setups for concerts, bands, stages, and performances, but now he mostly does sound setups with churches and gospel artists. He also loves to golf, although he doesn't have much time for it, like most of us, and spending time with his family. So Jason, thank you for your 20 years of service.
Good to see you. It's been a while. She was just saying.
And last but certainly not least, Mr. Jose Roman. Jose is accompanied by his wife, Marilyn. They have three children, Thomas, Rosalind, and Jose Jr. Jose began his career on May 9th, 2006 as a meter reader. He later moved to the water construction department and began his career there as a water apprentice. In August of 2018, he was promoted to Water Technician 1 and later transferred to water operations in December of 2023. Jose later earned the opportunity to become the department's first leak detection technician. Some folks call him the leak doctor. He embraced the responsibility with enthusiasm and professionalism, working independently with a company called Guterman to develop both a leak detection program and daily operational guidelines. The program has played a key role in identifying difficult to locate leaks and detecting potential problem areas throughout the water distribution system. Currently, Jose is responsible for inspecting more than 820 miles of OUC's oldest cast iron water mains to ensure there are no active leaks. He also works closely with the water trouble technicians in locating hard-to-find water leaks throughout the system. In addition, Jose has built a strong working relationship with the Water Conservation Business Group. He assists the team by identifying customer-side leaks and providing detailed email reports to the conservation staff. The team then conducts water consumption reviews and notifies customers of potential leaks on their property. Through his dedication, technical expertise, and proactive approach, Jose has made a significant impact on water system reliability, conservation efforts, and the customer experience. Jose is very humble, he is a team player, and will do anything that helps someone else grow, learn, and develop. He shared with me that OUC is a great place to work, and he is very thankful for OUC and what the company has done for him and his family. Jose is a huge baseball fan. His favorite team is the New York Nets. He loves gardening with his wife, and he also enjoys woodworking. So Jose, thank you so much for your 20 years of service.
Thank you so much. We will now move to the affirmative items portion of the agenda, as we do not have community recognitions this month. Mr. Bullock, before we consider the affirmative items, do we have any requests from the public to speak on any affirmative items?
Nothing on affirmative items.
All right. If there are no speakers, we will now, Mr. Bullock, will you please present to us every comment you have on the affirmative items, please?
Sure, I'd love to, President. I would like to highlight a few agenda items under one presentation. While I'm doing that, Brad Jewell, our Director of Water Production, will lead us in an overview. Commissioners, it's agenda items 3, 4, 5, and 6. They're all around Lake Highland Water Treatment Plant project. And I thought it would be great if Brad could just give you an overview of the project. There's really 4 elements, hence the 4 agenda items, but it is at the same location at our very first water plant, the Lake Highland Water Plant. And so I thought Brad could give you an overview of the project, see if you have any questions as we move forward. So Brad, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Lamon Gonzalez, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, Mr. Bullock. I'm Brad Jewell, Director of Water Production. And I'd like to inform you of some improvements at our Lake Highland Water Treatment Plant facility we'd like you to consider. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the OUC water system. OUC has 6 water treatment plants that have a combined FTE permitted capacity of 160 million gallons per day. Our consumptive use permit, or CUP, which is through the St. Johns River Water Management District, allows us to withdraw up to 100 million gallons on a yearly average. We have almost 2,000 miles of water distribution piping. This piping provides us with redundancy if one of the water plants is taken offline. We have almost 164,000 residential and commercial CERT water services, and our water quality lab monitors more than 135 regulated and unregulated substances. On average, we are pumping 85.5 million gallons per year, 85.5 million gallons per day per year to our customers across a 200 square mile area. Okay, got it? Thank you. Lake Highland is our second largest water treatment plant, with Southwest Water Treatment Plant being the largest. It was permitted in 1999 for 30.4 million gallons per day, with a peak pumping capacity of 48 million gallons per day. Although it can pump more, the Water Management District has established a consumptive use permit limit of 19.5 million gallons for the facility, which is averaged over a year. Our typical daily flows are between 12 and 15 million gallons per day. We are currently flowing 14.3 million gallons per day during the dry season. The water plant has 6 wells, none of which are on site. These wells were constructed in 1955 when OUC transitioned from surface water to groundwater for its potable water supply. Although our water plants are interconnected through the distribution system, each has its own pressure zone that overlaps the others. The Lake Highland Water Facility primarily services the downtown area, including most of the hospitals and medical buildings. The plant was constructed as a part of Water Project 2000, which upgraded all OUC water treatment facilities to ozone treatment. After 26 years of continuous operation, we have a few challenges that we are addressing. The ozone generators are no longer supported by the manufacturer, and spare parts are very limited. Although we are currently in compliance with FDEP's requirement for power redundancy, as our water customers' needs increase, the 2 separate power feeds from Substation 1 will not meet this requirement. OUC for years has relied upon gas chlorine for disinfection, which Homeland Security has recommended replacing with safer technology. Several years ago, the safety systems required a complete replacement. A disinfection master plan, which was completed to evaluate different options, recommended the conversion from gas chlorine to sodium hypochlorite or bleach. To reduce disinfection byproducts, OUC has routinely flushed 300,000 gallons per day of water from the distribution system in this area to maintain water quality. Okay, thank you. This is the existing site layout. Lake Highland Prep is to the east, right of the slide, and Sunrail is to the north or top of the slide. The parking lot was previously leased to Lake Highland Prep for staff and student parking. This is the site layout for the proposed improvements. The addition of granular activated carbon, or GAC, direct injection of ozone, and the emergency power generation will require expanding the footprint of the existing facility into the parking area. OUC has coordinated with Lake Highland Prep, and they are no longer using the parking area. Our contractor, Wharton Smith, anticipates starting site work in the third quarter of this year and estimates that they will complete this work by the first quarter of 2029. Over the next few slides, I will be discussing the agenda items A3 through A6. Okay. A3 is requesting approval for an emergency generator and electrical improvements. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection requires all water systems to provide sufficient redundant power, either through an emergency generator or two separate power feeds from two separate substations to meet the average day demand of the water system. As OUC's demands increase, we will no longer be able to meet the requirements without adding an emergency generator at the Lake Highland facility. Shown here are the dual emergency generators that are added to the Conway Water Treatment Plant to meet these requirements. In addition, we are requesting additional electrical improvements to the overall system to improve reliability and decrease maintenance costs. Black & Veatch was selected to provide these design services through the CCNA process, and Wharton Smith was selected as the construction manager at risk to complete this project. Okay, thank you. Agenda item A4 is requesting approval for the sodium hypochlorite conversion. OEC is required by FDEP to maintain a chlorine-based disinfection residual in the distribution system. This is required to prevent the potential spread of waterborne disease. In the past, OUC used gaseous chlorine for this purpose. As our facilities age, the safety systems required for this could no longer be economically repaired and needed replacement. The Commission approved Hazen Sawyer, who was also selected through the CCNA process in June of 2017, to complete a chlorine master plan to help determine our best course of action. This report recommended sodium hypochlorite or bleach as the best option for OUC's disinfection needs. This change also addressed the Department of Homeland Security's recommendation to use inherently safer technology for disinfection. An added benefit of this conversion is the elimination of the need to add caustic soda for pH adjustment. In other words, we were able to eliminate two chemicals by just adding one. Agenda item A5 is requesting approval for granular activated carbon system. OUC recently completed the addition of a granular activated carbon system, I'll refer to as GAC, at the Conway Water Plant, which is shown here. We have found this has reduced the amount of chlorine we add to our water while maintaining our water quality throughout the distribution system. GAC is used in water treatment to remove trace amounts of compounds. Although OUC source water is very clean, it does contain trace amounts of organics, total organic carbon or TOC, that create a chlorine demand and increase the level of disinfection byproducts in the finished water. To reduce the level of disinfection byproducts and decrease the level of flushing needed in this area, we are requesting to add GAC to the system after ozonation to reduce the level of TOC. GAC has also been found to remove other contaminants from drinking water. As EPA identifies additional contaminants, GAC will be able to help OUC maintain our water quality. Agenda item A6 is requested to approval for the ozone generator replacements. The Lake Highland ozone generators were installed in 1999 through Water Project 2000. OUC source water has high hydrogen sulfide levels, which gives it a rotten egg odor. We add ozone to the water to remove the hydrogen sulfide. Fine bubble diffusers were selected to add ozone to the water. These are installed in the bottom of a contact basin that require technicians to routinely enter this confined space to make repairs. In 2009, the Commission approved the replacement of the ozone generators at the water plants. This was due to the original manufacturer declaring bankruptcy after the units were installed. We have been lucky to find parts through some of the original vendors, and these are becoming harder to find. We will also be transitioning to the direct injection technology, which is now considered superior to the fine bubble diffusers we are using. This change also improved the safety at the plants by eliminating the need for confined space entry of our technicians. CDM Smith, through the CCNA process, was selected to provide engineering service for the replacement of the ozone generators for all the water treatment facilities. OUC also selected 3 construction managers at risk: Overland Construction, Wharton Smith, and Garney Construction, to oversee the bidding and construction of these improvements. These projects are rotated through the construction managers. The stormwater management system for the Lake Highland Water Treatment Plant consists of a drain field installed under the parking lot to the north of the plant. Given the limited space and the need to add 24 GAC vessels, the old system will be removed and the water plant will share the stormwater system with the adjacent substation that was recently approved by the Commission. Morton Smith will be responsible for the construction of the system and the necessary site improvements for the substation. Given that the site is adjacent to the urban trail, OUC has worked closely with city planners to make the site as aesthetically pleasing as possible while maintaining functionality. The fencing around both the substation and the water plant will be like the fencing at Lake Highland Prep. The north side of the substation will need to be raised to level the site. To accomplish this, a concrete retaining wall will be constructed along the urban trail. This wall will be stenciled with pineapples and fern leaves and allow areas for local city-approved art. These improvements are part of the request for the granular activated carbon system, which is agenda item A5. Okay, next. Thank you. These projects will maintain OUC's water system reliability by reducing the risk associated with our aging infrastructure. The benefits of the system will be saving 300,000 gallons of water a day from flushing, or enough to provide service to 1,000 homes. There will be a reduction in disinfection byproducts and a reduced need for chlorine at the facility. There will be an increased safety of the operating staff through reduced confined space entries and a reduction in chemical usage. OUC will continue to meet FDEP's definitions of power redundancies as our customers' water needs increase. And in coordination, the stormwater system improvements will improve the aesthetics of the site while meeting increased need for stormwater treatment and management. And this is a summary of the 4 requests that we have in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Before we vote on affirmative items, I'd like to ask again if there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission on these affirmative items. Okay, before we vote on the affirmative items, are there any comments or questions from the commissioners for Mr. Jewell?
Just one. How many wells do we have there and how deep are they?
We have 6 in operation right now, Mayor Dyer.
And how deep?
They're all 1,500 feet deep, all of our wells, all 29 of them are 1,500 foot deep.
And that's in the
The lower
upper
Florida.
Florida? or
Lower Florida,
lower
yes.
Florida?
Yeah, OUC was the first utility in the area to drill down to the lower Florida.
Okay, and do you need all 6 wells to meet the capacity?
Well, this time of year, we're running 4, sometimes 5 during our peak flows irrigation.
So you have some redundancy?
We always have, we have redundancy there, and we have redundancy at all the other plants too.
Okay.
Is there a motion to approve affirmative
moved.
item A1 through A23?
So moved.
Second.
So there was a motion from Mayor Dyer and second by Commissioner Brown. With no further discussion, we will take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Jewell. Since there is no new business, we will move on to presentations. Commissioner Williams, will you please provide the Audit Finance Committee report?
And good afternoon. The Audit Finance Committee meeting was held on April 23rd, 2026. The committee received a presentation of recent internal audit activities, including a review of recently completed internal audit projects and the status of open audit items. The committee received an update on the Advanced Metering Infrastructure Meter Exchange project. The committee also received a presentation on the solicitation for underwriting services and considered management's recommendation to include Bank of America Securities, Goldman Sachs, Hilltop Securities, Jefferies, JP Morgan, Loop Capital, Morgan Stanley, Ramirez, Raymond James, RBC Capital Markets, TD Financial Products, and Truist Securities in the pool of approved underwriters. Presentation 1A. The committee recommends commission approval of the proposed capital financing underwriting team. The committee received a presentation regarding the issuance of the Series 2026A and Series 2026B bonds to refund existing debt and to fund a portion of the fiscal year 2026 and fiscal year 2027 capital plans. The committee recommends the following actions be presented for commission approval. Presentation 1B, the issuance of Series 2026A fixed rate refunding bonds to refund the 20 million Series 2008 funds and the 36.6 million Series 2016A bonds with Goldman Sachs and JP Morgan as co-senior underwriters and Hilltop Securities and Truist Securities as co-underwriters. The issuance of the 250 million Series 2026B-1 and Series 2026B-2 variable rate bonds with TD Financial Products and Loop Capital as remarketing agents, and approval of the TD Bank as the standby bond purchase agreement provider for the 250 million Series 2026B-1 and the Series 2026B-2 bonds. The committee received an update on the status of the review of the energy risk management policy and the cash reserve targets. The committee received quarterly updates for the Energy Risk Management Oversight Committee, Treasurer, Accounting, Fuel Stabilization Fund, and Grants Administration activities.
Thank you, Commissioner. Before we vote on the Audit Finance Committee recommendation, I'd like to ask if there are any members of the public who would like to address the commission on these items. No? Before we vote on the Audit Finance Committee recommendation, are there any comments or questions from the commission? No? All right. Is there a motion to approve the capital financing underwriting team to include B of A Securities, Goldman Sachs and Company, Hilltop Securities, Jefferies and Company, JP Morgan, Loop Capital, Morgan Stanley, Ramirez and Company, Raymond James, RBC Capital Markets, TD Financial Products, and Truist Securities?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Commissioner Brown and a second by Commissioner Williams. Any discussion? If there is no discussion, we will take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Motion carries. Now, is there a motion to adopt the Series 2026A Utility Systems Revenue Refunding Bond Resolution and the Series 2026B1 and Series 2026B2 Utility System Revenue Bond Resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion from Commissioner Williams, second by Commissioner Brown. Any discussion? No further discussion. We will take a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. McCullum, will you please present the financial report?
Yes. Thank you, President Lehman Gonzalez. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good afternoon, Mayor. Good afternoon, Clint. On your screen are the summary of the financials that are in your board packet for the fiscal year to date numbers through March. At the bottom line, you'll see the net income before contributions is $59.7 million versus a budget of $48.2, $9.7 million ahead of budget, or 20%. So we're in solid shape this year. And as I mentioned at the last board meeting, the numbers on your screen are net of a $25 million deferral of wholesale revenues that the team was able to generate during the cold weather snap in late January, early February. So we're in great position. Nothing more to report at this time. We're closing the books on April as we speak. The April revenues look good. They're right on top of budget. So when I come back to you at the July board meeting, I'll have April's numbers and June's numbers for you. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Woody, do we have any legal issues to report?
That's good.
Thank you. Mr. Bullock, do we have any members of the public that have requested to address the board?
We do. We have one. I think you have the information there in front of you.
Mr. Jason Thornton II, please come to the podium. Before we start, I'd like to remind all members of the public that you must state your name and address, and whether you are an OUC customer. You should limit your comments, please, to 3 minutes or less, and the commissioners may direct questions to our officers or staff to address now, or if appropriate, by contacting you with a response to your question once we have verified the facts. Mr.
Perfect.
Thornton.
Hi, my name is Jason Thornton, and I live at 5542 Donnelly Circle, and I am not an OUC customer. I'm here today seeking clarity on one question I have, and that is OUC's 10-year site plan that was released a year ago. Pages 2 to 3 state that OUC anticipates placing Stanton Unit 1 into extended shutdown by the end of May 2026. Is Stanton Unit 1 going to be placed into an extended cold shutdown by the end of this month, May 2026?
So we're on plan with that. It could be closer to June 1st or June 15th. We have some operational elements we need to make sure are addressed before we can do that, but we're still on track with that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. This is a clean, healthy, and affordable decision for Orlando. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart. Okay, we will move forward with the general manager's comments. Mr.
Thank you, President Lemon Gonzalez. I do have a couple items I would like to update the board with today. I'm going to start with Kevin Noonan. He's going to come up. He's our Director of Legislative Affairs and give you an update related to our state and federal legislative session. A lot of things occurring. I'll leave all the exciting stuff, I guess, for Kevin. So, Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, President Lehman Gonzalez, Mayor Dyer, Commissioners, and Clint. It's been a very busy time in both Washington and Tallahassee, and still is. Going to start at the state level first. What's going on up at Tallahassee? And for the 2026 legislative session took place from January 13th to March 13th, so it ended about 2 months ago. During that time, OUC was tracking about 100 different bills that had the opportunity to impact our operations here. Of the total almost 2,000 bills that were filed, only 237 passed both chambers. So it's very hard to get a bill passed in Tallahassee. And to date, 81 have been signed by the governor with no vetoes. The one act that the legislature is required to get done each year during the legislative session is to pass a balanced budget. They couldn't do it. So they left town without getting that budget done. The House and Senate were about $1.4 million apart on their spending plans. So what's happened is they're actually up there starting today, and they'll be up there for about a 3-week time period to see if they can get that balanced budget across the goal line there and put in place before the state's new fiscal year starts on July 1st. So that just started today. There's been some other special sessions and talk of other, potential special sessions coming. There was a special session that was held late last month that had to do with congressional redistricting, artificial intelligence, and vaccines. Nothing took place with regards to AI or vaccines. However, the state did pass new congressional maps. There's some challenges going on with those that are starting this week, so we'll have to see what happens there. And the governor has hinted multiple times that during the June timeframe, there could be yet a third special session that has to deal with property taxes. There's various plans that may or may not have been put out there, so we'll have to see what is in the call of that special session when it happens in the June timeframe. So I mentioned that there were almost 2,000 bills and about 100 that we were, tracking intently. There were 9 key bills that we really had our eye on, the ones that had the potential to impact us the most. 5 of those bills have already been signed into law. They're up on the screen. I'm going to take a little bit of time to talk about each one of them as we go through. So the first one I'll touch base on is House Bill 154 that deals with sovereign immunity. That's on the next slide. There it is. So sovereign immunity basically puts limits on the amount that someone can sue a state or local government for any type of wrongdoing. Currently, those limits are at $200,000 per person or $300,000 per incident. This bill that passed increases those limits to $350,000 per person and $500,000 per incident. So if signed into law by the governor, it'll go into effect in October of this year. And we'll have to see if it gets the governor's signature. And if it does, there could be some potential impacts regarding lawsuits and things like that to anyone that works in the government sector. The second bill I'll mention is House Bill 1451 that deals with utility services, affectionately known for the last 5 years as I've talked about this as the municipal utility bill. It finally made it across the end line this year, and it had 4 main parts, 2 that impact OUC and 2 that don't. The two that impact OUC is that this bill will require OUC to hold public meetings for any citizens that we serve outside of the city limits. So citizens that might be located in Orange County, and I know we serve a few that might be located in the Winter Park city limits, we'll have to hold some public meetings where they'll have an opportunity to hear from us about our plans for the future and our rates. And they'll also have an opportunity to ask us questions about, you know, how we're proceeding and moving forward in the future. That does pertain to us. The second
Kevin,
part-
do we prohibit people that don't live in the city of Orlando from attending our public meetings we already hold?
Of course not.
Okay.
So,
Just check.
no, I mean, everyone's welcome. We have a gentleman that came today that's, you know, probably outside the city limits, says he's not an OUC customer. So everyone's welcome at our board meetings. So the second part that impacts OUC directly is we'll be required to provide some additional reporting to the Public Service Commission. Again, letting them know the number and percentage of customers that are located outside of the city limits that we serve, what type of revenue we take in from those customers, and if there's any rate differentials. So let me flip to the two parts that don't impact OUC. One of them is rate differentials. So this bill also essentially eliminates rate differentials for inside and outside city limit customers. In the past, cities, counties, and even OUC could charge a differential to customers that were outside of their city limits for providing a service, you know, farther from their core. OUC currently has no differential. We charge the same rates for water and electricity to our customers no matter where they're located. That's not true for all utilities located across the state, and they're going to have to make some adjustments in the future to have those rates become equalized. And the last part of the bill also does not apply to us, deals with the Gainesville Regional Utility Authority and basically gives them preemptive power over the Gainesville Regional Utilities. It basically lets the state stay in charge of that by appointing the members to the GRUA board and not letting that utility revert back to the control of the city of Gainesville. So it's another one. It's a preemption from Tallahassee, which is a recurring theme on a lot of fronts over the past several years. You can move to the next slide. Senate Bill 1134, official actions of local governments, may be a misleading title. It deals with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it basically prohibits cities and counties from funding, promoting, or taking official action related to DEI. This bill was signed by the governor into law on April 22nd, and it becomes effective in January of next year. So it voids, you know, existing county or municipal ordinances, resolutions, programs, or policies involving DEI, bars the use of public funds for having a DEI office or officers, and it even puts local officials kind of in jeopardy of losing their positions as an elected official if they are still promoting any type of DEI activity. It also requires that you certify to the state that you're not spending any funding on these type of activities. So it's pretty an all-encompassing bill. OUC does intend to comply with this bill. Another bill that was moving to the next page that was signed on the same date and approved by the governor prohibited governmental policies regulating greenhouse gas emissions, otherwise known as the Net Zero Bill. So also signed into law effective April 22nd and going into effect on July 1st. This bill states that net zero policies harm the state's energy security and economic interests. And it defines a net zero policy and prohibits government entities from adopting, collecting for, or funding any policies that would support or implement a net zero policy. It also requires all governmental entities to sign an affidavit saying that they are not spending any dollars to achieve a net zero goal. And OUC also intends to comply with this law. On the next slide, there were a trio of public records and public meeting bills that we were following. OUC was instrumental in getting some of these passed. In prior years, every 5 years, public records and public meeting laws come up for what they call an open government sunset review, where the legislature decides, is this law still necessary? Do we need to keep this exemption on the books? So The two of them have already been signed into law dealing with trade secrets. So if a vendor comes to us and we're talking about proprietary, information that they might have, we're allowed to keep that out of the record as a trade secret. That one was actually the sunset review on that was repealed, so that one will stay on the books forever moving forward. The one related to any type of information brought before the Public Service Commission, again, confidential information related to trade secrets or internal funding, mainly used by the investor-owned utilities moving forward. That one was extended for another 5 years. And the last one that has not been signed into law yet has to deal with IT and OT operations. You may remember in the past, actually, the mayor might, is that there are public records and meetings exemptions for information related to our cybersecurity protection to make sure that we can keep that in-house, make sure that our networks and computers and everything are protected from any type of cyber attack. They actually expanded that definition to include additional practices in our IT and OT operating areas, including risk assessments, audits, logon credentials, geolocation data, and public portal information. So it's an expansion that gives us additional protection moving forward. Hopefully that one will be signed as well. And on the next slide, and hopefully this is my tongue twister for today, dealing with perfluoroalkyl and polyfluoroalkyl substances. These are some of the affectionately known as PFAS and PFOA, the forever chemicals. So this bill actually looks at phasing out PFAS containing firefighting foam, which is known as aqueous film forming foam, AFFF, that is used in industrial facilities, chemical plants, even power plants, and at airports to put out industrial type fires where water is not what you should use on that type of fire. So what this does is it says anyone that has this AFFF type of material that has the forever chemicals in it needs to report them to the state. They need to phase out using them, and then they will become illegal to have possession of in July of 2029. An initial review of OUC facilities did find that we do have some AFFF in some of the fire suppression equipment at our Stanton Energy Center. And we're going to work with our environmental and our facilities team to make sure that there are no other instances of that chemical being on our site. And then the team will have to work to make arrangements to phase out the use of that chemical and make sure we have another firefighting scenario in place. So that one has not been signed into law yet, but I don't see why it wouldn't. And the last bill that I'll mention at the state level has to do with something that's been in the news quite a lot for anyone that's been following, and that has to do with data centers. This bill has been signed into law just last week, and it goes into effect on July 1st. There's been a lot of talk about the large data centers starting to move into Florida and the tremendous environmental impacts they can have on a city, on an area, and then the impacts they can have on utilities, not just from the electrical side, but also from the water side. So this bill basically defined large-scale users, including data centers, as anyone that's using over 50 megawatts. It acknowledges that they place huge demand on utilities, and it allows governments to put in place, any type of regulations they need to make sure that their community is protected. It also requires the investor-owned utilities to put in place tariffs for these large load customers to ensure that they are not passing on any of those costs to other commercial or residential customers. So if a data center wants to come in, it's basically saying you're going to need to pay your own way, whether that's for transmission or a new substation or upgrades to power plants. It's trying to make sure that they pay their way. And they have to have those tariffs on filed with the Public Service coming up in October. I mentioned that it's not just on the energy side that these data centers come in. We all know they use huge amounts of energy to provide all those servers to keep them running, but they also require a ton of air conditioning, which is usually requires them to use a lot of water in that air conditioning process So this bill actually puts a miniature consumptive use permit program in place administered by the Department of Environmental Protection. So they'll have to get a permit to use all that water to keep those data centers cool. So based on our current administration in Tallahassee, their view on data centers, this definitely puts some roadblocks up that might make them a little bit harder to site in the state of Florida for the time being. So now I'm going to kind of flip over to the federal side and talk about a few things that are going on up there. Always interesting times in Washington. We're focused on the issues that affect public power, and I was going to mention a few of them. One of them is FEMA reform. They're looking at some permitting changes, tax policy, and some federal budget decisions. We actively track these, individually as a company, and we also tag team with our state and local trade associations like FMEA, APPA, and LPPC to make sure that we know what is going on and how it might impact us and our community here in Orlando. So the first one I wanted to talk about is the Fixing Emergency Management Act for Americans Act. That's the FEMA Act of 2025. You'll know when the current administration came in, they made it quite clear that they were interested in doing a revision, a restructuring of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, downplaying their role and passing more on to the state. The administration put a committee in place to go over and come out with recommendations. This was all under the Department of Homeland Security, which is where FEMA falls. If you follow the news, they've had some transition over there. The report got held up for quite a long time. It just came out last Thursday, and we are currently digesting that, as is everyone in the industry and all our trade partners. At a high level, it basically calls for the states to take a bigger lead in disaster relief and covering more costs, a smaller federal role overall, including in disaster housing assistance. And it also calls for a private takeover of the National Flood Insurance Program, which I understand Florida has more residents on that program than anyone in the nation. So there's some big hurdles to get this done. It will require legislation. The House had a bill up there. It has not gone for a final vote. The Senate doesn't have a bill. We're working with our senators, Scott and Moody, to try to get them to sponsor a bill that comes out so we can have some opportunity to influence what language is put in there to make sure that public power is protected. So a lot moving on in that space, a lot to digest as that report with all its recommendations just came out late last week.
Kevin, why don't you just add who one of the members of the council was as it represents Florida?
It was a nationwide council with folks with experience in disaster preparedness that were all brought in. It did include Kevin Guthrie, who is the executive director of the Florida Department of Emergency Management. So Florida did have representation on that council. So you know that the concerns of our current governor administration were brought up at that level and incorporated into that report. So we can sort of see the writing on the wall of some of the things that might be coming our way in the future. Like I said, it will require legislation, and it's really only got a halfway start in the House, and it's going to need some help, and then a Senate bill to come along as well.
Kevin, is 4669, does that implement the report, or was that a bill that was?
It was before the report.
So what's in that bill?
It hits on probably about, I think, 2 or 3 of the main areas that are in the, I think the recommendation came down with about 10 big recommendations in the report. Yes. This bill was only hitting on about 2 or 3 of them. I think it would probably need to be reassigned to some additional committees that have jurisdiction over things like housing and how funds would be transferred from the federal government to the state government and then distributed out. I think there's a lot of work to do on this, Mayor, because you're basically taking what used to be a whole set of policies and procedures and the folks that ran it in Washington and pushing it out to 50 different states that don't have all those people in place and how to handle that. So although it streamlines things at a federal level, I think it's going to be a heavy weight at the state level, and no one knows how we would apply for funding or how that funding would come down. So there's a
In
lot.
most cases, there'd be at least one more step in any reimbursement for anything.
It seems like could be additional steps at the state level. We know that they're pretty resilient at pre-auditing any funds that come through from the federal government to the state. They almost audit us in advance of getting any of the funding back. I know one of the aspects inside the recommendation was to eliminate or work on eliminating the over 600 outstanding federal emergency disasters that all have funding tied to them. So there is a major backlog in Washington, which is why it takes so long for those federal funds to come from Washington to eventually get to the communities they're designed to help.
They are committed to make it more efficient. That was an element of the report. So for whatever that's worth.
I have a question on 4669. I see that the co-sponsors of that are Frost and Soto.
Yes.
How supportive are Scott and Moody on that, and how does that look as far as moving forward for you?
They really, in our conversations with them, and I know through our trade associations and through my coworker Terry Torrens, who usually handles the federal type stuff, they haven't been very receptive to doing anything because the report has not come out.
Right.
Now that the report has come out, now that you can see kind of the guidelines for putting legislation together, we think something will come together on the Senate side, and of course we're going to ask for them to sign on, especially because this is so important to the state of Florida, because unfortunately we have the disasters and we know it's not an if but a when, so we want to make sure that we're taken care of. So we will re-engage with them to make sure we get their support.
Thank you.
I've read some early things that indicate it'll be a year or two before this all gets figured out. So there's still a lot more to figure out and address.
Oh, yes. I'll touch on some of the permitting reform that's going on. A lot of it centers around the National Environmental Permitting Act. If you're doing any type of project that uses federal funds or touches federal property, anything like that, it could trigger an environmental review under the National Environmental Policy Act. It's known for being extremely cumbersome and very slow. So large transmission lines, power, even power plants or things like that could, have an impact on our environment fall under this. The current administration is trying to speed that up to make sure that, major infrastructure, energy, and mining projects can move forward. You kind of know where the current administration stands on all of that. They're trying to increase the time with which permits go through that process, limiting claims and when even NEPA can apply. They're looking at digitizing everything that goes through that process, so there's better access to that information, more transparency, and getting things done quicker. So we are following all of this to see how it might impact us. Typically we would like to see, these things move quicker because they tend to delay projects into the years as things move slowly. So we're following all of this for OUC to make sure that we are aware of how it could impact us moving forward. On the next slide, some of the tax policies that we're following are the private use tax policy. When a municipal or a state or a government entity uses their tax exempt financing and then partners with a for-profit agency, there's certain laws and rules that come into effect and limits on how long that you can do that. So what we're trying to do on some of the, I think I may have jumped to private use instead of the tax policy, is just make sure that we'd like to see that 3-year time limit be extended so we can partner with folks on a longer term period, especially for things on large scale projects like transmission lines. Of course, we always want to make sure that OUC can use tax exempt bonds to finance infrastructure. We want to make sure that the municipals and governments can always have that tax exempt financing. And, as we're looking at additional funding, hopefully coming out in the future for nuclear and other clean energy items and tax incentives, we want to make sure that public power has access to those too, not just on the other side for the investor owns. And we're also following the foreign entity of concern guidance. There's some federal laws that declare certain countries we really shouldn't be doing business with when it comes to certain types of technology. some of the technologies, come, at least in solar and battery, come from China. We don't want to wind up in a project that, might have, any type of federal funding or anything in that, and then has, parts or pieces or components that come from a country that's been, designated as a foreign entity of concern. That could be a problem. We're trying to make sure we don't fall into any of those potholes or go through any of those tripwires, if you will. And so just the last thing I'll mention is it was interesting to read the president's proposed 2027 budget asking for a 10% reduction to non-defense spending, including over $15 billion eliminated from renewable energy projects. And we know that public power, utilities, all utilities, as we're expanding and trying to make our generation more sustainable, that would be a large blow to funding that might be available for additional solar or battery storage in that area. The current administration is also talking about eliminating weatherization assistance programs like LIHEAP. That's provides a tremendous amount of assistance even to our customers here in Orlando. We're not up north in the cold weather, but Orange County and Osceola County get between $4 and $7 million a year through LIHEAP. That is then extended to, our customers are able to apply for those funds and apply them to their bills that they're having problems paying. There are some benefits in there looking at expanding, grid resiliency and grid expansion. That would be helpful. It's just good to look at this to get an idea of the way the current administration is thinking and where they're going. But ultimately, Congress is the one that passes the budget, not the president. He has to put forth his plan, much like the governor puts forth his, but ultimately Congress holds the purse strings. They typically make sure LIHEAP is funded, things like that, because it's very important to their constituents that need that help. But it does give you an eye for where the current administration is looking to move their spending. So that's kind of it from the state and the federal level. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kevin. I have a couple additional items I'd like to share with the board. Wanted to give the board an update of some activities that occurred last week. Myself and several members of the executive team had a meeting with the City of St. Cloud City Council members to really continue to leverage the relationship that we have, talk a bit about how things have been going related to the services that we provide, and also do a tour of Stanton Energy Center, which is certainly one of their objectives, and there's some cool photos there. So we had the mayor of City of St. Cloud, the deputy mayor, council members. We had the city manager attend, the police chief attend, and again, a variety of different execs out there. We spent some time really going over the overall, again, relationship. Just as a reminder to the board, this goes back to 1997 when the city of St. Cloud essentially operated their own utility. And they decided perhaps it was time to partner with someone else that may be in a better position. A couple of their objectives was to improve reliability, lower rates, perhaps increase the financial return back to the city, make sure there was a joint participation committee in place. And I can sit here and tell you we've achieved all those objectives for them. Their rates are in a better place, reliability is much better. They have received an additional financial return based on the contract. We meet on a quarterly basis. We have members of the executive team meet with an executive team over at the City of St. Cloud on a quarterly basis just to review items that continue to occur. Back in 2021, we extended the agreement, and the agreement now goes in place to 2042. Significant growth continues to occur in St. Cloud. When we first went in contract with them in 97, they had a little over 16,000 customers. Sitting there today, they have over 61,000, and I will tell you, in growing. I think there's a statistic, Mayor, their claim is one of the fastest growing from a percentage standpoint cities in the state of Florida. So again, a lot of exciting things continue to happen there, and we're glad that we're down there. We certainly highlighted most recently, a couple years ago, we built an OUC grade distribution facility down in St. Cloud based on the growth, and we spent over $70 million for that facility. Of course, it has expansion capabilities with that also. We spent over $200 million in a variety of transmission projects here over the last several years. So a lot of growth continues to occur down there. A lot of investment in infrastructure continues to go on down there. And I'm really, pleased with the cooperation and the partnership that we have, especially through the quarterly meetings that we have as we talk about where they're going, how we partner with them on economic development is an important part of that too. We've got Harmony 1 and 2, our solar projects down in Osceola County area, OGS, of course, the investment we made. So continue to help advance reliability, affordability, sustainability, et cetera. So I just wanted to share that with you. We continue to maintain that very important relationship with the city of St. Cloud. Just as a side note, a few years ago, they did a similar thing on their water system, and they brought in Toho. So now Toho, while the city of St. Cloud owns the system, just like they technically own the utility still, they've partnered with Toho on the water side and OUC on the electric side for a long-term agreement. So anyways, just wanted to share that with you. And then lastly, I just wanted to share with you, in front of you, you have an update related to our strategic plan. I know, we've got to continue to meet with Commissioner Brown and Williams with the onboarding to walk you through our strategy. But for the other board members, we met back in the fall to roll out our Strategy 2035 10-year strategic plan that we did this time. And as part of the rollout, we recognize it's critical from a communication standpoint to make sure the employees understand the direction we're going, why we're doing some of the things that are in the strategic plan. And so we were intentional after we met with the board members in the fall. We met with our managers and up through what we call Leadership Forum. We generally do that twice a year, sometimes on-site, sometimes off-site, a little over 125 employees. And we talk about strategy and the direction of the organization. That last Leadership Forum was focused clearly on Strategy 35. Then in the spring, we began the rollout to the employees. We did it in a couple different steps. We thought it was important to then go to the supervisors next. There's about 90 supervisors, and we did 2 sessions, 2 different facilities to make sure the supervisors were informed. And then we rolled into the employees, and we did 5 sessions with the employees as we rolled it out, and we were able to connect with all employees in the organization over those sessions. They didn't just hear from me, rest assured. They had a chance to hear a few words from me. They had a chance to hear from the chiefs, some of our vice presidents, and also some of the what we call working group members, people that really helped develop the strategy also. And so they got to hear from some of those directors also. So I think we have a short video. Just want to let you see that here real quick. I'll say some final words on it, and then I'll wrap it up. So can we roll the video?
This will show you a high level of certainly some priority initiatives that we need to work on advancing from as an organization. And we're here to share those ideas in that direction with you here today, and know that we all play a role in strategy and how we advance this organization forward.
It's not just whether or not we want to change, it's that change is happening and we have to respond to it either way. So how do you adapt to that change?
When you look at these 5 strategic priorities here, what unifies all of that together, what the vision and the rallying cry for this strategic plan is optimizing today and empowering tomorrow. How do we drive excellence as a company all together and give us the tools and the skills to be able to meet the future with confidence? That's what it's all about.
It does allow us all to think about how do we create that joint collaborative partnership with our customers.
So it's about maximizing the value out of our assets, getting every bit of value.
So this part of our strategy is really about your needs and how we help deliver on that so you can deliver on the promise for OUC.
So how do we use the right tool for the right job? In the end, driving efficiency.
so that we can make space for everything else here.
It's probably no surprise to see that electric and water sustainability made it into the list of those 5 priorities that we're going to be focusing on for 10 years.
Whatever this community is today and whatever it can become in the future depends upon 2 things: the availability of water and electricity.
Our employees, every single one of you, tie into where we are headed. And so it's important that we are on this journey together and that we understand the why. What does it mean for you as a team or an employee? How am I connecting? How am I making this happen? How do I help advance the organization? So commissioners, it was quite a milestone. It was about a 3-hour session of those briefings. But as I told the employees, it was a significant investment in their time. And we feel important enough to make that investment because employees need to understand the strategy. Now, I also know that just because you roll out the strategy doesn't mean that you have completed the task or that you'll have an effective strategy, but it's the beginning of the conversation. Rest assured, there's a secondary piece to this process that will be led more by the chief and VP leaders of the areas as they really begin to break down into what does it really mean at my employee level. We're pretty high level, macro level, but you do have to get down to the micro level from an employee standpoint. And so we recognize the importance of that, but getting the employees behind us to understand why we're moving in the direction, why we selected the priorities that we have is really important to this overall objective. So I'm excited to be able to check that box. More work to be done over the summer as we go down to that second level. But I just wanted to give you an update. Again, in front of you is what is on our website currently. We thought it was important to make sure we have a 7-pager out there for those that want to understand where the company's going externally. This has been a part of best practices that we have researched, and so this is what we currently have externally and want to share that with you and know it's out there. And again, Commissioner Brown, it's coming. We've been doing a lot of briefings with you. Just know that strategy is one of those ones that we've got coming from an onboarding standpoint. I do want to commend the entire team, the chiefs, vice presidents. They've been working really hard on this. Putting together these events for a couple hundred people is not an easy task in itself. Getting up there and presenting it as many times as we did. But it's been a great step. I'm excited about the strategy 2035. I think it's a critical part of OUC success, making sure we have a strategy, but also making sure we are agile enough to pivot as we need to. So with that, I'll pause, and those are the items I want to share with the board today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'd like to know, Commissioner Brown, if you have any comments in regards to the information or the meeting today?
After the meeting, I want to thank the staff for doing the briefings, Pershing and Stanton, and that was informative to say the least. So thank you.
Mayor Dyer?
I always enjoy the service awards that I have 4 at 20 years. It was very nice to see them and how happy and supportive their families were related to that. And then I do have thoughts on the state legislation, but I'm just going to keep them to myself.
All right. I just would add thank you to the staff. Thank you for everyone who really makes this organization what it is. I love seeing about the strategy piece and how it was rolled out. I think that was very impactful, and I was blown away that we went from 16,000 to 61,000 in St. Cloud, and I think that's something that's going to your point, get larger.
Yes.
So without objection, this meeting is adjourned at 3:19. Thank you, everyone.